This evening we're discussing the film Selma with Ava, the director. Welcome, Ava, to
Thank
the
you so
United
much.
Nations.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here.
Could you tell us why you're here tonight and how is Selma relevant to the global community?
Well, we're here for a number of reasons. We're here to, celebrate in this year of remembrance for the transatlantic slave trade and the whole Remember Slavery movement, which I think is so profound and necessary. But then also just to discuss and explore and interrogate the connections between that time and the time that we explore in Selma, the civil rights movement of 1965, namely with the marches to and on Selma. And so it is really about exploring and interrogating the connections between those times and all times of intolerance where, everyday people have amplified their voices for justice and for dignity. And so that's what the discussion is here tonight, as well as a couple of very cool announcements.
And I understand there are many student delegates here this evening. What it is that you want them to take away from this discussion and this experience? And why is it important for them to see the film?
Well, I think I always try not to dictate or to express what I hope people will take from the films, because as an artist, I give that as a gift to the folks who will bring themselves to that piece of art and take what they will from it. But I am, bolstered by the fact that so many young people are finding something in Selma that's resonating with them, because there are connections between what happened in 1965 and what's happening now, 50 years later in 2015. Namely with the issues of police aggression, the issues of underrepresentation in government by marginalized communities, and then also just with issues around voting rights, new issues that our forebears never would have thought we would be dealing with right now. The fact that folks bled and died for the right to vote, and yet voter turnout is so low across the board in all categories. And so there's lots to talk about, and I think there are bits and pieces in Selma that speak to all of those issues and more.
And could you tell me about the Selma for Students initiative? I understand Paramount is going to give the DVD free, make it available to all schools. Why is this being done?
Well, I have to commend Paramount Pictures and Paramount Home Entertainment and all of the people at the studio for really getting behind this idea that this film can do more than entertain. It can educate, it can inspire, it can empower. And so this is a movement that started during the theatrical release of the film a few months ago, and it was spurred and created by regular people outside of the studio, leaders in the Black business communities around America who said, we are going to give our own money so that students can see this film. All kinds of students of all colors. And so over 300,000 students ended up seeing the film theatrically. And so Paramount is now extending that idea by giving a free DVD to any and every high school in America that wants one, along with a study guide. And I think, hopefully the film will trigger conversation about all kinds of things. There's so much embedded in the story of the freedom fighters that walked from Selma to Montgomery. And so the hope is just that it gets people thinking and talking and thinking about new tactics, new strategies, new ways to move freedom forward.
And we know that your father's from Haynesville, Alabama. Was that a factor that motivated you to make this film?
Yeah, absolutely. I think every filmmaker, well, I'll speak for myself as a filmmaker, it's imperative that I find a personal connection to a piece that I'm working on. I can't just, do it to do it or do it for the money. It's a heart connection with me and my work. And so with this picture, definitely the proud legacy of African Americans in this country, but even more personally was the fact that my father is from the place where the story is set. I mean, what are the odds that one of the filmmakers chosen for this would have such a direct connection to the actual physical space. And so, yes, while I was certainly making a film about Dr. King and all of the proud people, men and women who marched and walked and fought for justice in Selma, I was also very much making a picture for and about my dad and our family.
Talking about the Selma March, why did you focus on the march itself? And why did you choose civil rights as the main theme for the movie?
Well, I mean, there's never been a major motion picture released by a studio that explores any part of the life of Dr. King. In other films, he's been a very tangential character, someone on the periphery of the main action that's not to do with him. And so it seemed about time that the man deserves a movie. And certainly there should be many more movies made about him. His life was so epic, so, you know, so huge in its effect on us and on the culture. But this part seemed to be a part of his life that we could tackle in a very intimate way. He was at the height of his powers, at the height of his fame. He could have chose to do anything at that time. You know, he'd already made the I Have a Dream speech. He'd already won the Nobel. He could have gone and written a book and been taken a professorship somewhere. But he decided to go back and struggle and fight with the people on the ground in rural Alabama. And that's something that I think is worth a cinematic exploration.
And as a director, what were some of the challenges as you tried to focus on diversity, social inclusion, and civil rights in a blockbuster movie?
Wow, blockbuster movie! You're the first person to call Selma a blockbuster movie. Thank you. I like the UN. This is a good place. Yeah, I mean, when you're tackling any subject that is not, a romantic comedy or, action, the things that make a lot of money in Hollywood, there's always a little bit of, I think, hesitation because, Hollywood is run on money and profit. But I think, at the heart of some of the best films ever made is, a personal connection to our humanity. And so, this film is very much about that. It's about people, it's about personhood, it's about dignity, it's about the humanity in all of us and how it looks the same if you look closely enough. And so, I commend all of the partners in this film, Pathé, Oprah Winfrey, Paramount Pictures, everyone who came together to make it happen. It wasn't made for many years because it's not something that reads blockbuster on paper, but yet you have many people who strive to make it a reality, and so that's a good thing.
And from the movie, we noticed that women played an important role in the civil rights movement. Today, how important do you think women are in the fight for equal rights?
How important are women in the fight for equal rights? The most important, very important. Not even halfway important. I think so much of the freedom and dignity of a nation depends on women. Women bear the children, women raise the children, women plant the seeds as to, how a child will grow up and what kind of man or woman that person will be. And so to say that women are anything less at the forefront of all of the liberation movements is to be disingenuous about, what really makes up any kind of resistance movement. And so in answer to your question, of vital importance.
And recently, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of racial tension in America. How do you think the film can educate future generations about these dangers of racism, prejudice, bias?
I think if nothing else, Selma can remind people that these issues are on a continuum. I think a lot of times you'll hear about a case or you'll see some striking footage or there'll be something that garners headlines and shocks everyone. And for a moment, all of our attention is there. But what Selma, the film, does, I hope, is remind people that this is an ongoing issue. It's deeply embedded in our culture. It is systemic. There are systems and architecture around these issues that are very hard to tear down the walls of. And so, I hope it serves as a reminder of the consistency of the problem, the pervasiveness of the problem. Because until you treat a problem with that, the kind of urgency that a consistent problem deserves, then you really are only getting temporary results. It's not about one case, one trial, one person. This is in the DNA of this country. And so hopefully Selma, in some way, works in the fabric of an answer toward those kinds of issues.
And how key is cinema in portraying or sending or speaking about this kind of issue?
You know, I think the image is so important. I mean, the way that we communicate is through art. You know, some people feel moved by music, some people feel moved by a painting, sculpture, you know, dance, theater. And you know, the cinematic image is certainly a part of that. You know, as a person who loves film, I know that the times that I've been most moved, times when I've been most outside of myself through a piece of art has been through the moving image. And so for some people that's literature, for some people that's different things. It depends on what you love. But movies have the power to change minds, change hearts, and to allow us to walk in someone else's shoes. It's a rarity. Most of us don't allow ourselves to walk in other people's shoes. It's an empathy machine, really. That's what movies are. And so I hope Selma serves to that end for someone who watches.
And is there anything else you'd like to share with us tonight?
I'm very happy to be here, and I thank you so much for talking with me.
And thank you, Ava.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We will not wait any longer. Give us the vote. That's right. No more. We're not asking, we're demanding. Give us the vote.